Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Chinese President Xi Jinping met at the end of December 2022. On behalf of their respective nations, the two leaders signed contracts with Huawei, a tech company, and another that increased oil supplies to China. This represents a significant shift for Saudi Arabia, which has even said it is willing to settle trade disputes in currencies other than the US dollar. Saddam Hussein tried to do this more than 20 years ago, which may have contributed to his eventual overthrow by Western forces. Many in the West who have always believed Saudi Arabia to have close ties to the US would be shocked by the warming of relations between China and Saudi Arabia. Since roughly 1933, Saudi Arabia and the United States have enjoyed close ties. The fundamental tenet of the relationship between the US and Saudi Arabia was that in return for US military protection, the Saudis would back US foreign policy globally and guarantee the US a steady oil supply. This abrupt change in the warming of ties between Saudi Arabia and China is taking place against the backdrop of additional shifts in Middle Eastern relations as well as the expanding influence of Russia in the area. Russia and Syria historically have enjoyed close connections. However, despite international pressure and attempts to remove him, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has successfully managed to keep power because of Russia's current support. Additionally, Russia played a crucial role in supplying the Syrian government with medical assistance and supporting the government in its conflict with armed groups. Syria and Russia have long had a solid and consistent partnership officially established in 1944 after the Soviet Union committed to promoting Syrian independence. Erdogan, the president of Turkey, has also just made it known that he is willing to speak with Bashar al-Assad, the leader of Syria, which indicates a significant shift in strategy. The Syrian president has already strengthened relations with other Arab nations. Iran, Algeria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Iraq consistently backed al-Assad. But he has also rebuilt ties with other Arab nations, including Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates. Undoubtedly welcomed by Russia, such a meeting between al-Assad and Erdogan would make the situation for the US soldiers in Syria more precarious. The US still keeps a military outpost in Syria's Homs Governorate. There are about 200 soldiers at work there. The Syrian government, however, sees the soldiers' presence as an invasion and occupation. They are illegally based on Syrian soil, and one can only hope that if al-Assad and Erdogan truly reconcile, they will be compelled to leave their camp in Homs, which they were never permitted to establish. If such a thing were to happen, it would signal that the West had left Syria and Russia's power had grown even more. Moreover, a good connection exists between Russia and Turkey, another NATO member. Additionally, Russia has begun establishing more cordial ties with other Middle Eastern nations like Iran. Relations between the two nations were better during the 19th and 20th centuries than they are now. During these two times, Russia actually played a repressive role in Iran. But right now, the two nations are working together in a strategic partnership on both the military and economic fronts. The fact that the West has imposed sanctions on them unites them. Additionally, it is claimed that Iran gave Russia drones to employ in its military battle with Ukraine. Moreover, Iran now has access to the Russian market for light consumer goods. An association like this strengthens the position of Eastern rather than Western influence in the area. Additionally, the Middle East's internal dynamics have undergone a striking transformation. For instance, the Saudi Crown Prince recently said that he would be open to meeting with Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader. The statement by the Saudi prince does show a fundamental shift in policy, although relations between the two nations have always been tense. Nevertheless, one cannot help but believe that, in light of a shift in the region's overall balance of power, relations between the Middle Eastern nations are now developing favorably and becoming more united than divided. Hopefully, the East will differ from the West in that countries in the East, like China and Russia, will strengthen economic and political ties between countries, allowing each country to prosper on its own rather than imposing its ideology and doctrines on the Middle East, as the West did in Iraq and Libya. Therefore, mutual respect for each nation's independence, as well as for its unique cultural and religious background and governmental structures, would serve as the basis for such a relationship between countries in the Middle East and those in the East rather than dominance, influence, and ultimately control.